everybody. I'm Sari Custer, Chief of Science and Curiosity here at Arizona Science Center. And today I'm thrilled to welcome you to Career Corner. This is a short interview series that's all part of the Arizona Science and Engineering Fair. And here we're going to get a chance to hear from different STEM professionals about their career journeys. Today, we get to hear from Scott Bryan, Senior Biologist at Central Arizona Project. Scott, thanks for joining us today.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Well, we're excited to have a biologist, and I think a lot of people have heard of CAP, but maybe don't quite understand exactly what Central Arizona Project does. So we'd love to just kick it off with, kind of who are you and what do you do? Tell us about yourself, where you work, and what your job is.
Sure. Again, my name is Scott Bryan. I'm the Senior Biologist for CAP. And for those of you who don't know what CAP is or who we are, we deliver Colorado River water from Lake Havasu to Central Arizona and Southern Arizona. And that water is used for various municipalities, tribal entities, and agricultural uses.
Awesome. And what do you do specifically at CAP, Scott?
I do a lot, I think. But I think I have the most interesting job with CAP. I started about 10 years ago, so I've been here just about a decade. And when I started, there was no biology program at all. So I was fortunate enough to be able to develop my own program, really. And so when I came in, I took a look at some of the issues that CAP was having and got to develop the program around those issues. And when you think about it, CAP is 336 miles long, and we have about 40,000 acres of land surrounding the canal system. So there's a lot of things that go on biologically around in and around the canal. So it's a pretty fascinating system. I would say, really what my goal is, number one goal is to make sure that the water keeps flowing to our customers. And in that water, we have several nuisance organisms, I guess, that would stop that water from flowing or have the potential to stop that water from flowing. So my job is to design research projects, monitoring programs, and even treatment alternatives to make sure that those nuisance organisms don't impact our flows. Give you an example of a couple of those organisms, quagga mussels. I know a lot of people have heard of the mussels that we have in our system throughout the Colorado River and in CAP. They can severely affect the system. Colonial hydroids, weeds, sediment, different kinds of algae. One of my favorite, it's not my favorite algae, but it's the favorite name is rock snot.
So gross.
Yeah, that can become an issue for us as well. So I work on those, but I get to do some fun stuff too. I work with a lot of the wildlife and fish that we have in and around the canal. I set trail cameras up on wildlife drinkers that we have to make sure that wildlife around the canal have water that they can access. We have wildlife bridges, so we're not interrupting their migration patterns. So I have a little fun with those. I put trail cameras on, see what's using them, see how often they're using them, and you get some really, really neat pictures out of that. So that's pretty fun to work on. Fish stocking, I get to handle the fish, and we put fish in the canal for vegetation control. Those are the grass carp that we put in, and we also put them in for insect control. Some of our neighborhoods have insects or have problems with insects at various times of the year. So we put in channel catfish to handle those insect problems. What else? And one of the more fun things I get to do in those 40,000 acres of land, we have what is called green up areas, and those are areas with some more vegetation in them. And we develop some burrowing owl habitat on those in some of those lands. So we're able to relocate burrowing owls who have been displaced due to construction or whatever's happening in what would be their normal home, and bring them into those areas and conserve the species, I guess. And it's really fun to go out there every once in a while with the camera and catch them on camera, see what they're doing.
So you weren't kidding. I mean, you really do everything. You do a lot of things.
Yeah, and I think it's a big variety. Yeah.
It's definitely multifaceted. And I don't think that, when people hear about CAP or water, I don't think they instantly connect just the multitude of biological connections there are. I mean, water is so important, especially in the desert. But okay, so as a biologist, how did you first get attracted to wanting to be a biologist?
It wasn't a straight line path, I'll tell you that. I started off, I got my degree in environmental biology from Eastern Illinois University. When I went there, I originally wanted to play baseball, but that didn't happen. So I went into the sports medicine field. And even though I loved the medicine and the kind of the science of bodies and movement, I was spending a lot of time, too much time, taping up people's ankles and hanging out in locker rooms. And I knew that really wasn't what I wanted to do for a career. So I kind of look back at what I enjoyed in high school, and crunching numbers and doing accounting was one of the things I did pretty well at in high school. So I started down that path, and quickly figured out that sitting behind a desk wasn't for me. So I talked to some friends at school and got some ideas. I ran into one guy who was a wildlife biologist, and he told me all about what the field entailed. Piqued my interest. I looked more into the program. I was able to do an internship with the Illinois Natural History Survey, working on a small fishery. And I guess, pardon the pun, I was hooked. So I just loved being outside. I loved getting my hands on the critters out there and doing the research and everything that goes along with it. And so from there, I got my environmental biology degree at Eastern, and then went on to South Dakota State University and got a master's degree in fisheries management.
So, you talk about that whole connection, the things that you love about your job, which I think is really important to have that. I'm sure that along the way there also, you mentioned already, there was some path correction. You thought you wanted to go into one career and then another, but, our teens craft these questions because they want to understand the journey, right? The path of your career. Would you be willing to share maybe a mistake that you've made along the way that you learned from?
Well, if I made any mistakes, I could share it. Everything's been perfect. It's been
perfect. 100%. No mistakes.
No, I'm not pointing to anything directly, but science is about trial and error. And you'd like to think you could sit behind a desk and come up with the perfect study plan or the perfect experimental design. And they all look good on paper until you actually get out in the field and start implementing it. And nothing ever goes right in the field, especially the first time. So really, science is all about trial and error, and you figure out what works, what doesn't work. You kind of roll with the punches and just adjust as you go, and hopefully learn for the next time that you're going out and doing something similar, that you've learned from those first mistakes or trial and error.
That's great. Thank you. And, I personally think your job sounds absolutely awesome. So I kind of want to come shadow you for a day and hang out. And I'm sure there's others thinking the same thing. So, Scott, what would you say, what's some advice for someone maybe pursuing a career in STEM in your particular field, maybe that you would give to them if they want to follow along this path?
Sure. I think based on my own experiences, I think I would give the advice of don't be afraid to try new things. Think outside of the box, get out of your comfort zone. After I worked with Game and Fish Arizona Game and Fish for about 10 years, and had the opportunity to go work at a private consulting firm in Albuquerque, where we designed, built, and managed lakes and streams. Is a fantastic opportunity for me, but it was a real learning experience. I'd always worked in university or government type settings with the natural resources. Going to a private firm where the bottom line is your business is the bottom line, it didn't become as much about the resource as it did is chasing the almighty dollar, I guess. So I would never trade that experience for anything. I really learned a lot from it. I think it made me a more well-rounded person and helps me understand a little bit more in my current position. So I guess my advice is don't be afraid to try different things or try new things and make yourself a more well-rounded person.
I think that's great and ties right back into your, hey, science is all about trial and error, right? So try
That's
it
right.
all.
That's
That's
right.
great. Well, Scott, we are out of time for today, but thank you for sharing a little bit about your career journey.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Of course. And thank you to all of you for watching today. If you'd like more about the Arizona Science and Engineering Fair, you can get involved as a student, scientist, volunteer, judge, all different opportunities. And you can find out more about those right online at azscience.org. You can also find more Career Corner interviews just like this one, also online at azscience.org. All right. We can't wait to see you there. Stay curious, and we'll see you next time.